Hello, Pisces. So this is going to be your August 2019 part 2, which is kind of like a sequel to your part 1, which was July/August part 1. I'm using the Morgan Greer Tarot deck. You know, I went back and forth between which ones I wanted to use for you. But apparently this was the right one with that card that just fell out. Okay. And I'm also going to use the Romance Angels Oracle deck by Doreen Virtue. Now, for those of you who really just couldn't give two shits about romance right now, which is still how you feel about romance, I'm going to pull some Lenormand cards. Just 3. Sometimes one is enough. Pisces, obviously we know that's right. Oh, shit. Your cards are jumping all over the place. Okay, let me put that down before I cut it. 3, okay. Sure. We had shuffled, we had done all that, so they were mixed up. And then this is a wild card I'm going to put there. No, actually, it doesn't have to be. It's maybe, yeah, because I'm going to cut it anyway. Right. There's your wild card. Now I'm going to put one in the center. Future, anxieties, Mars, Venus, relationships, outcome, energy moving forward, challenge, immediate influence. Okay. So, at the bottom of the deck for you, you have the Queen of Rods. So this talks about, getting something done, right? You might even be feeling anxious like a fire sign would be, right? But this is definitely Leo. So you could be dealing with a Leo, you could be dealing with an Aries, or you could be dealing with a Sagittarius, or somebody who just has these qualities, right? This is Aries, but you also might be dealing with a Pisces, right? Because this card is Aries, but it's 1/3 of Pisces as well. So this could be you and another person who is a Leo, or this could be you wanting to assert some part of yourself out of your own authority, right? And it could be talking about, your identity, because, Leo is talking about your identity and the creation of the soul and the spirit of you. And then the Aries is also talking about the awareness of who you are, right? And also what you want by knowing who you are, right? It is talking about discovering things as well, being that it's related to Aries and initiating things out of that self-discovery, right? And then it's also self-initiations too at the same time. There is a sunflower here, so that does indicate blooming, and it does indicate growth as well. There's spiritual growth here, and there might be some kind of complexity to it because it's something that wants to get something started, but then it's also something that's sort of like fixed, right? Something that kind of like isn't changing about the identity, or something like that, or something that or something that are passionate about, right? You might be passionate about your career right now for some of you, um, and you might just be creating waves. Anyway, let me go ahead. I don't know why I said that, but it is 1/3 Pisces. Let me go ahead and look at the card that's in the center of the reading for you. The Emperor, which is which is Aries, right? But then it's also related to the 4th house, right? Which is talking about protective. You might be being overprotective of yourself, or you could be asserting some part of yourself out of like what it is that you want, you know what I mean? And you could be doing this from a place of, experience, right? Because the Emperor is experienced and he has solidified something with this experience, right? And it talks about completion, right? So there's something that's going to be met out of this feeling of completion, right? And this feeling of stability that is needed, emotional security as well. To set boundaries, right? And wanting to create these structures and these rules and these guidelines or something like that. Wanting to be in control of your destiny, or wanting to be in control of your life, right? Because the emperor is related to Aries, and this is very fiery right now with the Queen of Rods and the Emperor, right? And this could have to do with the relationship because the Emperor is the yang to the Queen of Rods is yin. Okay, what's challenging the Emperor? Wow, the Ace of Rods doing something. It's sort of like a change in of plans, right? It could be like this is really potent energy and being very excited about something or being very passionate about something changing, right? So you might want to it could have something to do with like sexual tension, right? Because the Emperor does talk about tension, right? And then these are both signs that are ruled by the sun, or the sun is exalted there, so it really does have to be passions of the self, right? Heartfelt identity issues, or things about who you want to be or who you want to be respected as, right? It also does talk about um, aggression, right? Because the Emperor and the Queen of Rods both deal with aggression, and the Ace of Rods is the initiation of something, of assertion, and maybe aggressing, being aggressive. This could even be the beginning of something that's changing through action, right? Somebody might want to change something by showing something or doing something. The Ace does have to do with understanding something and becoming aware of what it is that you might have to do, right? What you might be faced with, an action that you might be faced with. Also, hi. Also, let me go ahead and flip over your past position and see what you were dealing with in your past, Pisces. Wow, I don't even know. I usually don't have reverse cards, but this card is reversed here. So this is Mars in Leo, right? And Mars is in Leo right now. And being that this is in reverse, it's saying that you're not fighting a battle, or you feel like you're fighting a losing battle, right? Because with the Seven of Wands, it's talking about how you assert yourself when you're trying to deal with making critical choices, when you're being faced with obstacles and opposition and all kinds of adversity, and it's almost kind of like you're being emotionally affected by what you're not seeing yourself do right for you, because Mars is the self and Leo is the self as well. It's a conflict, and it's with an advantage, but it's saying that if there's a conflict here and you're not seeing the advantage that out of the conflict, you're just feeling conflicted now. You know what I mean? And the seven does have to do with moving forward towards a victory, and you don't see yourself moving towards this victory unless you start to realize what's happening here and how you're being affected by the experience that you're having. And it does have to do with the relationship not necessarily being worth fighting for, because there's a seven here, and that's related to Libra, which is a seventh house, but then it's in reverse. So it's almost saying like you're not fighting for this relationship, or you're not choosing to fight for it, or not do what it is that you have to do. You know what I mean? Or you don't want to fight for it anymore. You don't want to do what it is. And it could have to do with work, because the seventh house does have to do with like money and pleasures and things like that. But there's disharmony here, and it was felt in the past, right? And it's almost kind of like all of the energy here is fire, right? So, fire creates and it destroys, right? So you have to think about that as well. What is it that's trying to be created, right? What is this new self assertion that you're being asked to show that you're not doing? And then it's also kind of like saying that you might be being a little bit passive aggressive as well, because the sevens are ruled by the chariot, and that is Cancer, right? So that's talking about your emotions and being emotionally reactive, and also being emotionally unresponsive too, right? Emotionally irresponsible, because there is a such thing as being emotionally irresponsible and being emotionally immature, right? And Leo is talking about the authority, and then this is being in reverse. So it's saying that the authority is not being matched, or it's not being met, or it's not being felt, because it is a seven. You don't feel like you're your own authority or something like that. And also, I feel like you may have, the victimization of it, right? You have to commit to understanding the bigger picture here, right? You have to see a bigger perspective. You're not seeing, it's like your perspective. isn't being sharpened, or you're not using your you're not using your perspective, or you're not allowing your perspective to change in order to move forward out of a situation that you feel challenged by, that you um, are struggling with, really. Okay. Okay, so let me look at your sun position, Pisces. Another card in reverse. This is crazy. You have the Ten of Swords in reverse. I'm gonna flip them over after I read them that way. You've got the Ten of Swords in reverse, right? So this is almost saying that you're not allowing a situation to end, right? It's almost like you're fighting the end of something. It's almost like you even want to take the you want to get rid of all of the past memories or something like that. You know what I mean? Or you feel like you might even be hurt, right? You might even be wounded. You're in the mind. You know what I mean? You might be feeling like there's some sort of like psychological injuries that you might be dealing with, because this is the sun in Gemini, but it's in reverse, right? And that's kind of like your mental health is not doing very well. Okay, and it could just, or psychologically, you know what I mean? It's not an issue of us trying to like what do they call it? Oh my gosh, what am I saying? Um, I'm sorry, I'm not a doctor, so we're not gonna come up with any ways of just kind of like putting a name on anything for you as far as like how you're feeling in your mind. I'm tired, y'all. I was gonna leave the house today, but I'm like, my body hurts, and I just, yeah, I had a crazy week. Anyway, yeah. But yeah, this talks about, not really being connected to your mind. You're not allowing a situation to end, right? Or you're not allowing a certain truths. There's all of these truths I'm sorry, that you may not be wanting to deal with, you know what I mean? But you have to. It's like, because it's the only way that you're going to be able to expand, right? And it is talking about perspective here, because they're swords, right? And from you, what is Gemini? The fourth house, which talks about home. It talks about family. It talks about feeling of security. It talks about belief in oneself, right? Because it's a four, so it's related to the emperor, which is here, which is challenged behind the beginning. You're challenged with this beginning that needs to happen, that needs to take place, or some phase that needs to change, right? Because the aces are talking about change and the tens are talking about change. And there's a situation right now that hasn't changed in your life, right? Because it's a 10, so it's related to the 10th house, which is Capricorn, right? But what is your 10th house? If your first house, your 10th house is Sagittarius, which is where Jupiter is right now. And Jupiter is now about to come out of being retrograde, and it's going to go into stationary direct mode. And the 10s are ruled by the Wheel of Fortune, which is Jupiter. So being that this is a 10 right here and the sun is here, I'm getting that, around you might actually get over this, so you might understand something greater about this, because we're talking about perspective. Sorry about that with the camera. Because we're talking about perspective, you might see it like in the 10th month. And what is that? October, right? Something could be happening in October, right? You might feel better in October. That's maybe when this energy might reverse itself. Or we could be dealing with the season that, Sagittarius rules, which is like December, sorry, which is really which in August, right? Because really, September was the seventh month, October was the eighth month, November was the ninth month, December was the 10th month. See what I'm saying? Anyway, around that time, it could be like December as well, when this changes, so you start to realize something about what this was all meaning for you. But you've got to let a situation end, okay? Because it was meant to change you, and it was meant to usher you into a new phase of your life. This is the ruin of something too. It's the Lord of Ruin. And it's almost like you're not letting something that might have been ruined, or something ruin something for you, right? And you even feel like, the purity of something might have been tainted, or the purity of something might have been like harmed, or at a I feel like something disadvantaged. You know what I mean? You feel disadvantaged in some kind of way. I don't know why that word is coming up, but a person who kind of like is in this position on this card definitely is at a disadvantage. Ooh, I like this lighting. With these cards, you can see them. They're not being like shown, you know, washed out. Okay. Mm-mm. This is just too much for me. In the moon position, wow. Okay, I've never gotten cards like this in reverse, so there's no reason why this should be happening. I feel like I do know why though. There's some cards that I don't mind people touching, and my roommate is very spiritual and everything. And he also reads cards, and I feel like maybe he had his hands on it. Maybe not. But this is your reading, honey. And you got the Eight of Wands in reverse here. And this is talking about Mercury. And this is talking about communication in the mind and things coming in fast, but you're not paying attention to it in the way that you were meant to pay attention to it. Because these messages were meant to give you power, right? Because it's an eight, and it's related to the eighth house. And these messages that were coming in that was trying to give you a sense of empowerment were meant to get you from one place to another, right? And the Seven of Wands was in reverse, and that's you not standing up for yourself, or not believing in the truth about oneself, right? Or the realities that one might be facing that's making you question yourself, because it's a seven and Libra has questions, and it's reality and it's answers and it's call and response, and it's for every action there's a reaction, right? And with this Eight of Wands being in reverse in your moon position, it's like you weren't listening to what your spirit was telling you, what your soul was telling you, and what your emotions were telling you. You know what I mean? It was because it was affecting you emotionally, right? And the eight is related to the eighth house, which is Scorpio. If your eighth house is Sagittarius, then or if your 10th house is Sagittarius, then your eighth house of transformation is Libra. So you're meant to transform through your relationships. Right? Am I right? Yes. So this like October is Libra season. I talked about October before. You know, maybe there's something happening there for you guys, or this could also even have to do with like I don't know, you just kind of wanting to get somewhere in life, right? Because Sagittarius is talking about embracing, growth. And it's almost like you may not be embracing this growth. The moon is definitely talking about embracing something so that you can nurture it. And it's saying that you're not getting the messages here. You're not taking advantage of the opportunity to seize an opportunity, right? It's weird. And it's saying that you're not allowing yourself to receive these this multitude of growth, right? Spiritually, and it's not just talking about in what you already wanted. You know what I mean? It's talking about what you can or what you might get out of something, right? Because sometimes an opportunity isn't just what you already wanted. It's probably bigger than what you already wanted, right? I mean, but you probably may not know what that is because you don't know what that feels like because you've never been there, right? And it's an eight, so it's related to Scorpio, and Scorpio is talking about hiding feelings, right? And it's in the moon position, right? We just had the moon in Scorpio. It's in Sagittarius right now, okay? But we just had it in Scorpio, and that there was a lot of weird stuff going on, and there was a lot of weird stuff going on in the world, as far as very Scorpio things too. Anyway, so you're dealing with not listening to the messages of transformation that have been calling out to you, trying to get you from one place to another. Let's look at your anxieties. In your anxieties, you have the Temperance card, right? You don't feel like you're going to be able to move on from this point with the strength in your soul to move forward. And it's talking about individuality as well, right? It's almost like you need to allow yourself to feel the strength of who you are as a soulful spiritual individual so that you will have the strength to move forward, right? It is talking about the opportunity to see in oneself what you value, right? okay? Because it's a 14 and a 1 and a 4 comes to a 5, and that's the Hierophant, which is definitely Taurus, and that's spirituality and religion and commitment and stuff like that. Um, but it also is talking about, with Taurus, it also is talking about materialistic things, okay? And being that the High Priestess is card number 2 and Taurus is the second house, there is a relationship that Pisces and Taurus have in terms of being materialistic sometimes, and using those things as sort of like an to fulfill, using things to fulfill a spiritual appetite that you have, right? Which can't be actually met with things that you can buy or acquire. It has to be met with your soul, right? And your spirit, and you visiting that place to make sense of the things that have been challenging you, right? By tapping into whatever it is that you believe in. You know what I mean? And it's trying to understand, right? It's mixing different elements of consideration and understanding, and you're trying to comprehend why your perspective is being challenged, or why your belief systems are being challenged, right? Because that's what's happening. you know because it's almost kind of like you have you're existing in the place that you were, but then it's almost kind of like spiritually you know where you want to go. You know what I mean? It's almost kind of like you're fearful of something that you don't know, that you haven't experienced before. You know what I mean? Because it's like the fives, Taurus. You have to think about this. Taurus is like a cow, right? And cows rely on people to take care of them. They rely on people to set boundaries of where they can go. You know what I mean? That the marginalization that takes place when you rely on someone too much for something, and it could be for something spiritual as well. You know what I mean? And that's weird because that's karma. You know what I mean? But this is talking about you having anxieties about moving forward by yourself in something, right? Or letting something go, because it doesn't have to be about being alone or by yourself. You know what I mean? It's talking, but you do have the Ace of Rods here, and you do have the Emperor here, and you do have the Queen of Rods here, and you do have the Seven of Wands here, and you do have, you have a lot of cards that talk about, individuality, because the Queen of Rods is Aries, but then she's also Leo. Those are ruled by the Sun. That talks about individuality. You've got the Eights of Rods. That's a 1. That's individuality. You have the Emperor, which is talking about the individual and understanding what it is to embrace your individuality and your authority and assert it when you know that that is when you are being called to use your power. It doesn't really matter what it is that you're going through in life. You know what I mean? Because you're still going to have to be called to a higher purpose to serve yourself. Okay? And yes, that's what we're dealing with the Temperance card being in the anxieties. Wow. It's getting better. And you did get reverse cards, and that is amazing because that never happens. And now you're getting major arcana cards. This is a heavy hitting reading. And it was also one for Gemini, you know what I mean? And you guys are kind of related in a sense that, the High Priestess is, the Roman numeral number 2, which really just kind of looks like two Gemini, looks like Gemini, right? Anyway, you got the Star card here in your Mars position, and the Mars position is talking about, aggression and how to fight, or how to combat something, right? How to put yourself at risk, or how to step forward through something or towards something, right? And Aries and Mars are definitely moving towards something, right? Because it's the impact. How are you going to make the impact, or how is how are your actions going to make the impact that you need them to make, or what are the actions that you need to take to make an impact? And you have the Star card here, right? So this is saying that you need to tap into your spirituality again. You need to rebalance yourself spiritually, right? Because it's the 7 star. There's 7 stars here. The 7 chakras. Look up the meaning of the ibis, right? That's a bird, right? Ibis, I believe. There's the Star card here and the Temperance card here are both talking about mixing elements of spirituality and just kind of like thought process and perceptions and how you perceive things. You know what I mean? Because your thought perceptions are actually kind of warped, right? Because you got the sun in Gemini, which is already crazy being Gemini, and then you had it in reverse, and then you got the Temperance card being here, right, which is talking about mixing elements to understand something, right? It's spiritual alchemy, right? It's tough, right? Understanding what it is to move on from something that you felt like you were attached to, right? It's talking about detaching from something as well. And then the Star card is talking about detaching as well, because this is Aquarius, and we're about to have a full moon in Aquarius, right, in about 5 days, and that's opposing Leo. Okay, and Leo is your what? What are we talking about here? La 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 la, Gemini, Cancer, Leo. Okay, Leo is your sixth house, which is talking about your daily life, right? So being that we've got Leo right here, that was reversing your past, so it's talking about, something not really working in your daily life in terms of like authority, or like a Leo perhaps, or it could have been, a Leo might have been affecting you, or it could have been that like you might have been not feeling, your light might have been dimmed a little bit. You might have been feeling like your light was dimmed, right? And that's what the Seven of Wands in reverse kind of like has a feeling of. My light is being dimmed and I'm trying hard to, keep it shining bright, but I'm being affected emotionally. I don't know what choices or decisions to make. I'm a little bit confused in terms of like love and what I want out of love. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like the daily life is hard because you're going through the struggles and you're really trying to fight it. And you're healing. You're healing as you're going through it, right? But you have to be able to understand, and you have to acquiesce, right? Through all of the things that are being fed to you and downloaded and just being felt by you, because your feelings are connected to your mind, right? And that's where Libra comes in, and that is your eighth house of transformation. Your thought process affects your feelings. You know what I mean? What I'm thinking affects how I'm feeling. And that's why the Star card is here, because your thoughts have to be managed, okay? Your thoughts have to be managed. And with, Gemini being your fourth house, you have to sort of like be protective of your feelings, you know what I mean? Um, the Star card is saying you need some quiet time to yourself. You need to detach from all of the goings on around you, right? And you need to just refocus, and expand your level of commitment to yourself, and expand your level. Unconditional love is definitely something that the Star card and Pisces, in a the Star cards, no, it's unconditional love of oneself, regardless of how others might make you feel. You know what I mean? That's what the Star card is, right? Because it is Aquarius, and Aquarius knows itself, and it knows that its feelings that it gets from how it thinks about what other people perceive of it is really just kind of like an illusion, right? Because the Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and Uranus is the higher octane of Mercury, and Mercury definitely can confuse you, and Uranus definitely can confuse the fuck out of you. You know what I mean? So, with this Star card being here, it's saying that you just need to maybe meditate. You need to think about ways of reasserting your power of the mind, right? Because you are in control of your thoughts and your mind, right? And if you have to take yourself out of a situation that might be contaminating your mind, or it might be making you question, who you are, or what your purpose is, or what you were meant to do, and all of that, you need to just regain the confidence about you again. And it's going to take some time, right? Because Aquarius is definitely ruled by Saturn as well, right? Transformations are going on in your 11th house, of friendship, and that's what this is here too. Mars definitely rules Scorpio, right? And Scorpio, and this is your Mars position. Scorpio squares Aquarius, and that's talking about power. It's talking about transformation. You know what I mean? And the Star card is 17, and that's an 8, so it's transformation, right? Through self-awareness, right? Re-engaging with who you are, right? Who you really are, who you truly are. Okay? because Aquarius is the most mature, is the last air sign, right? So we've matured out of our understanding of who we are as individuals, who we are with other people, and who we are in the world in general, right? Who we are. That's Aquarius, right? Bigger picture, right? Perspective, right? It's understanding my Libra is important because we're talking about one-on-one relationships or one-on-one relationships with everyone. Then it's like, what is my relationship with everyone as a body themselves? It's talking about society as well. So Aquarius does talk about society because it talks about the relationship with the general public, right? And that's related to Libra as well. Libra is individual and it's the general public, right? Because when you think about the Justice card, it's actually number 11, and Aquarius is the 11th sign. So we go into like a little bit of like twists and turns when you start to relate signs to each other in terms of how they go about doing things out there in the world, and also as individuals too, but mostly like out there in the world because then it's qualities that they're sharing. Okay, so this could have been like you may have shared qualities with someone that you really valued, you know what I mean? And it might have even brought you to a place of calm in your mind to understand that someone else shared certain, beliefs and thought processes that you had, right? Um, it made you feel like you weren't alone, and you're not. So you have to just stop thinking that you are and actually enjoy the time that you start to feel that you are alone, because it's really trying to teach you something, right? Because Libra definitely shows us that we need other people to be around to keep our sanity and to feel balanced, right? And if we don't have that, then we need creativity and beauty and all of those things, right? But then, you also have to remember that you have a relationship with yourself and with your own, spirit or whatever, that which, gives you thought and inspiration, right? Okay, let's look at your Venus position, which is talking about relationships. Okay, bringing balance back to your daily life in terms of relationships, being critical of that, you know what I mean? Trying to be discriminate of what comes in and what stays in, what goes out, that type of thing. You might be processing something. Um, you know, this is a 6, so it's related to the lovers, right? Um, And then it's also Moon and Taurus. The Moon is talking about evolutions. It's also talking about completions. It's also talking about body, right? There could have been some body issues, some body image issues. You know what I mean? That might be affecting your relationships. Also, there might have been some things with the body that might have been affecting your job, you know what I mean? Or just kind of like your daily life and how you prep daily, right? Getting up, taking a shower, brushing your teeth, all of that stuff. Like all of those things might have been affected by something, and it was how you were relating to an experience that you felt like you were either getting pleasure or displeasure from, that you were benefiting from or that you were not benefiting from. You know what I mean? Because here we go. I was just talking about Libra and the Justice card, and here's your balance right here. Here's your scale, right? Chariot is number 7, right? That's Cancer. That's ruled by the moon. The moon is in this card. And then 7th house is Libra. Libra is ruled by Venus, which Taurus is ruled by Venus as well. And this is talking about scales, okay? Libra is talking about money as well. So there might have been some financial issues within a relationship, and you were trying to balance that out as well. You know what I mean? And then, that's in the same row with the Temperance card, which is talking about, being challenged spiritually with all sorts of things that being committed to something challenges you with, financially, emotionally, spiritually, right? All of those things, right? As an individual, making the best out of situation that's challenging. That's what you were doing. You know what I mean? But you were still anxious. There were still anxieties that were happening to you as you were trying to make the best out of this thing that you were doing, that you were in for your daily life. It's the 6 of Pentacles in the Venus position, right? So you could have been giving your best. It was a give and take too. So that was something that was needed to be understood and comprehensive. What's the working relationship here that we have? That type of thing. This could have been like, because this is the moon and Taurus is also kind of like helping someone bring about change, right? Or helping someone kind of like grow or add to, because the sixes might, it could be, it's talking about multiplicity in money and making things work. Waiting for Pisces to make a decision and trust the situation. Well, it's hard for Pisces to trust the situation, you know what I mean? Right? And this is talking about trust here too. It's the value of trust, right? Because like I said, Taurus is a cow and they trust the environment that they're in because of the maintenance, because of the discipline to catering to that which needs to be dealt with daily. You know what I mean? They like being catered to. So this could have been somebody that likes being catered to in a relationship, where you feel like, they may have catered to you out of just feeling like they had a responsibility to do that, out of a service they might have been. Yeah. It's like Taurus kind of gets comfortable, right? And this is also talking about Virgo, so this is talking about discrimination, right, within a relationship, and also, um, just having a lot of uh, maybe complacency or complaining about things, complaints about money. You might be complaining about money. Um, Venus also talks about contracts and things like that. And Virgo is talking about documents and processing things. So there could be some things dealing with money and processing money, and normalities that have to deal with money in a new way, different way. Because the sixes are talking about adaptability and changeability, even though that the Taurus is a fixed sign. So Taurus does get used to things being the same way, and it's saying that you can't get used to things being the same way, especially if it's in a housing situation, or if it's with something that's been given to you for a period of time, you know what I mean, or if it's like something that you just need to embrace for the moment, right? Because it's a six and it's Mercury, and that's talking about things being all over the place or changing or being wherever they are at any given moment, you know and Taurus doesn't really like that. This is kind of like being confused in the relationship. Like, what are things? What is this at this time? What is it today? What was it to yesterday? What was it tomorrow? What is it tomorrow? What are we to next month? Are we? Because this is questions too. What are we? What is this? What does this fit into my daily life? Is this working for me? Right? Is this job working? Okay, so now you have, the wild card is here. Let me flip that over. Justice. Wow. I made all of those talks about Libra. I made all of those talks about 11 and Aquarius, and about Libra being related to it. So this is talking about contracts, it's talking about marriages, it's talking about agreements, it's talking about relationships, it's talking about one-on-one relationships, the truth about a relationship, or the truth about a one-on-one relationship. You know what I mean? It is talking about something being revealed here too, because she's related to Aquarius and she's related to Pisces. You know what I mean? So this is talking about perspective, challenges there. It's also talking about law, right? Saturn is actually exalted in Libra, and Saturn right now is in Capricorn with Pluto, talking about karmic transformations. And being that you're a Pisces and Sagittarius is your 10th house, um, Aquarius is your 11th house, right? No, and being that Sagittarius is your 10th house, Capricorn is your 11th house of friendship and, just, wishes and things like that. What you would like to see happen, in your life, in a bigger picture sort of sense. You know what I mean? So this is talking about, truth in relationships, right? In the bigger picture there. You want to be more truthful in your relationships. You want to be your, the next one. And it's just so crazy because I talked about the balance, and see, because there's a balance that needs to be sought. You're seeking balance and you need to feel that balance, right? It's talking about what you think and what actually is, you know? Wow. Gemini and Pisces have gotten some really in-depth readings, and I just can't believe what's happening right now. It's great. Meaning like me and connecting with the cards, but this is some stuff that y'all need to be dealing with, Pisces. Okay? So now your future card. Ha ha ha. You cannot make this shit up. You got the High Priestess, which is your card. And it's 11. It's a 2. It's the Roman numeral 2, which I brought up earlier, which I was talking about Pisces and Gemini. Then I was talking about Aquarius. Here we go with the 11. It looks like an 11. And then it's related to the Justice card because it's talking about something being revealed behind them. There's something that is going to change your perspective that is being revealed to you or is trying to. And it's like what I was talking about with this Ten of Swords, which is the information, the truth, the understanding. What is it that you are, attaining from this in your mind? What's the focus? What's your focal point? Are you able to establish a focal point? Are you able to even like look at something? Are you seeing it? You know what I mean? Are you really seeing it, or are you in denial of it? Because you did have some cards in reverse. I flipped them over because we talked about it, and now I'm reading them upright. Because I don't really take reversals, but like you have them. So there's some shit that's not being made use of that's actually, meant for you to see, meant for you to do, meant for you to be, right? That type of thing. Oh, goodness gracious. But the High Priestess card is talking about, it's talking about escapism, right? So somebody could be escaping, you could be escaping, right? You might be drinking, you might be doing drugs, you might be having sex, anything that could be escaping you. You might even just be like emotionally detached from something because of your sensitivities, right? You might be feeling victimized by something, You might even be understanding that you're submitting to a feeling, right? And there's some growth here. And like I said, we're having a full moon in Aquarius, and right, this is Pisces, High Priestess ruled by the moon. It's the Roman numeral number 2, which looks like an 11. This is a waxing moon, right? So it's growing. So it's talking about something that you're going to understand come this full moon, right? And this full moon is actually going to be in your 12th house of blockages. So it's shining light onto something in a place that you're very sensitive to, because the 12th house is talking about sensitivities, and you rule the 12th house. You're a Pisces, right? You know a thing or two about sensitivities. My sun is in my 12th house. I'm not a Pisces, but I understand what it is that you go through as my sun is in my 12th house. Okay. But damn, there's some wisdom that is going to you're gonna soak up this wisdom, like right, when it does get revealed to you, right? It's kind of almost kind of like freshness too, because it talks about spiritual cleansing with the High Priestess as well. And it's ruled by Neptune, and Neptune, which is your ruling planet, is actually about to go retrograde, right? And I think that it's happening like this weekend, maybe like tomorrow or something like that. Hello. So, yeah, that's what's happening here. You just are very emotional about something. You're kind of like trying to draw the connection. You're trying to make the connection. It's asking you to listen to that which is being told to you through your intuition, right? Use your empathic self, your empathic being, to understand what it is. And Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, right? Jupiter is going direct tomorrow at the same time that Neptune is about to go retrograde. And Neptune actually rules Pisces, and so does Jupiter. We're talking about ancient and modern. So, there's some good things that are going to be happening as Jupiter starts to move forward for you, but it also expands bad things too. You know what I mean? So when Jupiter comes into your 10th house, right, of how you govern your life, of laws and restrictions and boundaries and, authority and things like that, and building stuff, it's saying that, something that you were building may have grown too fast, and it may have only been something that was not really what it seemingly could have been, right? Right? And that's in whatever context that you're able to put it in for you. You know what I mean? Because it may not mean that something wasn't meant to be what it was supposed to be, or it might mean that something wasn't actually meant to be what you were trying to make it be, right? And that's kind of like Jupiter sometimes, right? Anyway, but your two planets that rule you are doing some stuff, right? So there's a lot of activity going on with you at this time, Pisces, right? We're at a conjuncture, right? Is that a word? We're at a juncture. Okay, and that's what this temperance card is talking about in the anxieties. You're feeling this. You're able to acknowledge it now. Because before in the beginning, I was like, you're not seeing it. You are seeing it. You're just kind of like, you can be in denial about stuff because you are Pisces. You know, and because you're sensitive, you protect yourself from that, right? Pisces. uh Anyway, yeah. Now let's look at what's going on here. You have a lot of majors. You have the High Priestess, you have the Justice card, you have the Emperor, you have the Star card, you have Temperance. So there's Sagittarius here, there's Aquarius, there's Aries, there's Pisces, there's Libra. Obviously, there's Leo and Aries energy here. That's almost like all the signs, but it's mainly air and fire, right? And your water, absolutely, with the High Priestess here. You're in your future, so that's good. So it's almost kind of like you getting back to yourself. And I spoke about the self earlier because we had all of these cards that were talking about the self, which was Aries and Leo, right? Sagittarius to a degree. And then, Aquarius to a degree in the mind, sticking to oneself, right? And that's definitely what Leo does as well. So it's kind of like there's different elements or different energies that are sticking to, you know, what they're mainly concerned about. But then there's also the denial that's happening. But then there's also the truth, right? The truths that are being denied, or that just, things that are being felt that don't want to be regarded as truths. Okay? Good or bad. Did you guys like the video? Thank you. But let's look at what's going on in your outcome and your energy moving forward. Another major arcana card, you got the Hermit. This is Virgo. So this is talking about going inward to understand what it is that you're meant to, contemplate on. Thank you. What you're meant to contemplate on, right? To discover what it is that you're meant to discover out of this, right? Wisdom from the Hermit, right? Going within, having some epiphanies for sure. Like I said before, I even flipped over these cards. This Hermit card, I said you're going to be discovering some things that are actually going to make you understand what it is that was happening, right? Or what it is that you, right, are getting out of it, right? Because it's not about what someone might have said or done throughout the whole process. Maybe because we are our own person and we choose right out of our own authority how we respond to or react to, right? Or initiate things. So, yeah, people might definitely invoke feelings, you know, of passion about whatever it is, good or bad, in you, right? But it is up to you on how you deal with it, right? How disciplined are you, right? How motivated are you to stay disciplined so that you don't allow others to get to you so much? You see what I mean? And the Hermit is talking about discipline. It's talking about old age or wisdom, right? Getting older, understanding that there are things that need to be dealt with in a certain way. And that's what I was talking about when I was saying being discriminate of things, right? And the Hermit card is looking over here at the Six of Pentacles, right? Shining light onto that which you were putting value into in your daily life that might have been, blocking you from seeing something else that was meant to get you to a greater understanding, right? Hello. Whew. Now let's flip over your top card, which is the Ascendant card, which is talking about moving forward, right? What it is that you're meant to walk into or step into, or what you're meant to embody, right? I knew it. Just because this card got a little bit of water on it at one point. But you got another major arcana card, and it's your card, and it's Neptune, which I talked about. It's the Hanged Man, right? It's saying that you're just going to kind of like hold off on something, or you're surrendering, sacrificing some part of yourself or some part of something that was created, right? And you're allowing it to sort of like morph into something else, because the Hanged Man is Neptune, you know what I mean? And that's talking about dissolving boundaries. It talks about transformation or making things, not what they seem. Something may not be what it seems. Something isn't, what it always seemed to be, right? And that's, you have Pisces and Virgo cards here. So this is talking about opposition in relationships, right? Some things are not what they seemed to be, or some things are what they actually were, but I made them not be that. You know what I mean? Um, and it's a 12, so it's a 3. It's related to the Empress. It's related to Venus, right? Just like this Justice card is here. Just like this Six of Pentacles, card is here. Um, just like this High Priestess card is related to that, because there's to the justice, which is Libra, which is ruled by Venus. Venus is exalted in Pisces. Venus is in Leo right now with Mars, right? So there might be some things going on with the lovers of the zodiac, the lovers, you and someone else, in terms of how you relate to each other as romantic, intimate, one-on-one, because Libra's relationships, period. And that's why it is connected to that Aquarian energy of bigger picture, right? Because how you deal with your one-on-one relationships is going to definitely affect how you deal with the world, how you deal with yourself, all of that. Libra's fierce. Anyway, I'm sorry, but she's here, and the high priestess is too, because that's talking about unconditional love of oneself and unconditional love of a process, and being able to understand that there is something that you have to surrender yourself to, as Neptune is that's out of your control, that's out of your, we can't see that. The planets stop at Saturn. If you go outside tonight, you're probably going to see the moon, and if you see a star next to the moon, it's actually Jupiter, because Jupiter is in Sagittarius right now, and we can see Jupiter with our bare eye, our naked eye. You can also see Saturn with your naked eye too. So if you see another star that's bright but further away, um, but near and like close enough, but not next to the moon and that big star that I was talking about, then that's probably Saturn. But get Sky Map, I think that's an app, and you can open it and put it up to the sky, and it'll put up all the constellations and the stars and the planets as you pass your phone by it. It's like $2.99, but like it's pretty amazing. Um, you'll also see other stuff that you don't know there, like I do as well. But you're surrendering part of yourself out of a need to allow something to go through its gestation period, right? So that it can resurface, right? As this is Pisces, resurface, renewed, and maybe even cleansed and spiritually evolved, right? So I feel like you are going through a spiritual evolution. You're going through a cleansing of your spirit and you just your heart as well. Um, it's very, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 major arcana cards. That's crazy. And I feel like I don't even need to like pull any of these extra cards that I put out here today, because it's just I don't need to. you know. Um and once your job situation and once work is better, then your relationships will be better. Once you feel secure within your job again, then your relationships will just start to turn and unfold, and that's related to this hangman that's up here too, because it's Pisces, right? It's Neptune, but that's also the higher octane of Venus. In your Venus position, you got a card that rules Venus, you know what I mean, which is this 6 here, which is ruled by the lovers. Okay, and it's Taurus, that's ruled by Venus. The moon is exalted there. We're talking about the moon being in Aquarius in the full moon, right? Absolutely. Damn, Pisces, you know what? I've never really had a reading that was this good for y'all, but it is. Follow me on Instagram, Providence Tarot. I'm also NYC Kendrick. If you'd like a reading, email providencetarotkendrick@gmail.com. Or you can also have me read you in person in New York City on 14th Street at Shanti Shanti Bookshop and Crystal Gallery. It's at 230 East 14th Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenues. Check out the weeklies, I've posted them. There's also 4 romance loving proof readings that are up for August. There's number 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they have titles to them, so you can look and see whichever one pops out at you. You can watch that one. Lots of major arcana cards. I'll post a picture of the reading so that you can see like the visual landscape of the dense energy here from these cards that are majors. Okay, very speaking to you very loudly. Okay, bye Pisces.